Good morning, everybody here in the Freedom Legacy Group. We've been away for a while. We've been a bit quiet on the interview front. I hope you've had a fantastic Easter, but we're back with vengeance today. And I'm really, really pleased to introduce Patrick Melville to you. What can I say about Patrick without, stealing his thunder? I think for me, the big thing is that I'm massively inspired by people who use their story, their circumstances, experiences to share and to help and support others. And I think that, that's what we're kind of here for. That's a kind of a huge purpose. And Patrick definitely ticks all of those boxes. And when I first spoke to Patrick, it just absolutely said to me, this man needs to come and share his story with all the members here in the Freedom Legacy Group. So without further ado, I'd just like to say a huge welcome. Thank you so much, Patrick. And maybe you could just start off by just sharing your personal story a little bit, and then we can dive into how you are using that story and that experience to make a massive impact and transformation on other people.
Hello, Finn. Thank you so much for the lovely interview. It's always lovely, an intro as well to have that, and the opportunity to just guide and just share. I mean, for those of us, who are parents or leaders in companies or just friends, we sort of realize, don't we, sort of just sharing is such a strong way of helping. Sometimes individual, like myself, this is why I do this. It actually is quite cathartic for me to offload what's here. And so my story is that I, like a lot of people, guys, who are 39, I was working hard. I had 3 young kids. This is in London. This is my story. And I was cycling in London and working hard to go to Google, get some Google business. Obviously, it always looks good on the CV and the LinkedIn profile. I run my own business. I was, and I still do some marketing workshops, commercial workshops. So had my own business and with my young 3 kids, and suddenly I fell off my bike out of nowhere. I've cycled London for literally 20 years, never had this issue. I was, for those of you who know, I was cycling in Victoria and going towards the train station, came over some crossroads and came off my bike, hit myself, hit my head, but luckily not too bad, hit my shoulder. Everyone came to see me. I was like, I'm fine, typical guy, reaction, I'm fine, okay, I don't want any attention, I'm okay, how's everyone else? And I cycled on, went to hospital, they looked at my shoulder, they said, how are you? Thought I was okay, yeah. And then 2 weeks later, I'm having undergone all this kind of worry and this thinking, I've got to do my work, I've got to get my kids safe, I've got to, support them, my wife, do the work I say. I'll look after myself tomorrow. And after 2 weeks, I basically had to go to hospital, and they found in terms of, I give workshops with a longer version, but in summary, instead of having a 5-minute CT scan, it was a 20-minute CT scan where they came to me over 40 minutes later, and they took me into a separate ward. Thankfully, my mother was with me because my family were away on holiday, and the nurses crowded around my mother, not around me. And then the junior doctor said, Mr. Melville, we found a brain tumor. 4.7 centimeter glioblastoma, malignant, stage 4 here. So my life was literally, as my cycling analogy shows, one way, and then I had to stop. Think, what on earth is going on? Review my life, start sharing, start understanding, start helping, getting help. I didn't know how to do it, but luckily I had contacts already. And it took me a week to really get my head around what was left of, in my mind.
God, a week, that's a short time frame to get your head around something that big.
Well, you're forced to. Sometimes we're forced, aren't we? We wait till we burn out. We wait till these major traumas happen or something because in some ways we don't like change, do we? There's a lovely stat that when you think about something for more than 10 seconds, then your mind will try and stop you from doing it. Instinct actually sort of sometimes actually works better. That's why, in schools, girls are better at actually doing exams than guys, because girls are able to, put some logic behind it and prepare themselves, get that, whereas guys tend to work on instinct. So I was able to get radiotherapy, brain sort of a chemo and a brain operation. They took out most of the tumor, but that's still that worry, the word malignant, the word it was, registered as terminal. But 2 years later, I was told you're in remission. So every month I have a scan, a bit of scansitis. I've got my next one next week. So we'll see, cross fingers. I have a faith. I'm closer to God, having looked a bit of death in the face, even with my faith. And yeah, hopefully after that scan, I get another meeting with my oncologist and he says, all right. But that journey isn't just medical side. There's a whole emotional and mental side, which is why I give mental health workshops. People wanted to hear my story. I'm always around to one-to-ones or groups of companies to do that. I mean, we all have these troubles, don't we, Finn?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the question I have is, what was the biggest transition for you from an attitude to life, how you lived your life? So what was the biggest transition? And you can go, yeah, that changed straight away. Obviously lots of things change, how you work on, but your attitude to life, what was the can you sort of say categorically, yeah, a result of that day, that there's a change in my way I live?
I think the two parts. One, in terms of what really helped me was, and I changed, was that my own company. When you are so involved in like a normal work life, like everything's normal, but when you sometimes change takes you away from that. But I didn't really appreciate the time, the now, and the time I had with myself. And in fact, if I can say, and it's something I haven't actually thought about for a long time, because I'm slowly going back into the old life, but to say I love my own company. I love myself. And I don't care what people think about that. You know what I mean? It's me, it's my time. No one's going to laugh at my jokes in some ways more than me, because I know what makes me laugh, and I know why I say something, and I know what I do. And I don't have to get people to say thank you too much, even though as a parent, I sometimes get a bit stroppy with that when I do the washing up and I cook for the kids. But do you understand? Yeah, that's sort of one of the things. But also, I also recognize what I thrived on, what I had, I think. So it wasn't nothing new to start. It was always, so I have to admit my faith as well. I had gone to church beforehand. But that was that kind of relationship. It was also about the control I had and what I was already doing. I didn't actually have a scream or have a little fit or kind of sort of anger with what was happening, amazingly. And I think that's partly because of the way I coped with life. Now I acknowledge that. It's still pretty hard. I used to have that problem now. But I think it's sort of saying it's okay to yourself in the way that how you deal with things. And I enjoy my own company.
An opportunity to explore the relationship with ourselves, I think, is something that bypasses many, many, many people. And certainly, for me, that awareness that actually the most important thing is ourselves, that relationship, that understanding, that compatibility with who we are, what we are. And it's challenging, isn't it, when the world comes at you all the time with all the demands and pressures and so on. But I think it's such a valuable insight, that, because we can consciously make time to do that every day. But But when you're forced to look at yourself and go, right, this is happening not to me, but it's happening for me.
Yeah.
And then explore those reasons. I think that's a hugely powerful way to kind of deal with it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
probably had opportunities, or were faced or were forced to create opportunities where you had to really dig into yourself.
Yes. Yeah. So with my workshops, I talk about automatic negative thoughts. The fact that we're social animals, the fact that as Homo sapiens, we thrived and we beat up the Neanderthals who are bigger, stronger, smarter than us, but because we're bigger. And I think that social element brings us together, but also in the way that, sharing and just putting it out there, taking away that stigma that our mind, and recognizing that our mind does protect us. So to accept that, and it's ourselves, it's not external. It might feel like that, which is sort of understanding how we work, why we like something, why we strive and saying it's just calming down and saying it's okay. I talk about my workshops, it's okay to be stressed. But don't be stressed because you're stressed, you know what I mean? Then that gets like a layer of a cake.
Yeah.
And then it gets quite hard to get to the nice, the bit at the bottom which needs the attention.
And so what's evolved as a result of that? I know you're 2 years down the line, and what was the decision making that kind of led you to go, well, I've got a valuable experience here. I'm learning lots about myself, but I'm also learning how I operate and I can help others. So what was that kind of process? Because obviously, you said you had a business and a company. That must have been,
Yeah.
That's almost like going, actually, I'm going to keep this going, but then I'm going to start doing this. So like, how did that evolve?
Yes. Well, I use the analogy for a bit like cricket, as an innings. I was never a good batsman, but we have one innings, don't we?
Yeah.
And you play how you want to play. Of course, you've got to face what the bowler's bowling you, but in some ways, it's that kind of comfort you need to have with yourself. You don't always have to slog. You don't always have. So I realized that what I found, the way I wanted to play, the way I wanted to work, and there was thankfully, a need. I had some buyers who wanted to hear my story, and I got a lot of happiness. And I think the power of positivity is something which is such a strong way to look at life, and it's helped me. I really can think. I'm not a medical expert, but what I do in my mental shops, just to see one or two people smile or take some things away to help them in their life, in their one innings, and not to look back and think, oh, I got to 50 runs, or I got to 50 runs, but I was not happy with it. You got to enjoy every single run you have. It's another number on the scoreboard.
And Patrick, I know you're a family man, and you don't have to divulge or share this part of it, but obviously it's had an impact on your family,
yes.
and that in turn must also have an impact on you. So can you share a little bit about that and what you've noticed about those dynamics?
I think thankfully my kids were too young to really understand what the word sort of death was, or cancer. They've grown with it, and thankfully they see dad quite active. So that family angle was okay. My wife and I I suppose it's got me thinking a lot more about life, and I analyze a lot more. With my wife, if anything, we swap. I'm the one who thinks a lot too much, and she's the one who sort of gets down and does stuff. But I'd like to say that it has given me learning just to say things more, just to voice it, not to let this sit here and to think she's thinking that, or she's going to react like that. That's not fair on myself nor her. And to say, for example, I've said to her, I want to do a marriage course. And of course, and immediately she's like, whoa, what's the problem? It's not that. It's just, it's like having an MOT.
Yeah.
A bit like us having an MOT with ourselves, in our lives. An MOT, we need to check in. How are you? We don't do it with ourselves. We don't, let alone marriage. What we expect to drive straight away for the next 25, 30 years. How can you do it? Even the word mental health, for example, is another way of explaining how do you know what it is if you don't know what it means. So that's kind of the family thing. Now, obviously on paper, we'll have a chat maybe in a year's time, see how it goes. We're very close.
Yeah. The word that's springing to mind is the appreciation thing. Appreciate, and the more you appreciate, it expands and it grows. Because I think it's so easy to kind of take the little things for granted and not to make time for ourselves, but also not to make time for our partners.
Yes.
The quality of time, because it's always the next thing, or we put it off. And to really live a life that is appreciative of as much as you can be grateful for, and that extrapolates, doesn't it? Because it builds. And when you said that, I had goosebumps, because I when I was going through my struggles, I look back and I go, oh, I wasn't really there, when the kids are really small. You just kind of, you're in survival mode, aren't you? It's learning to kind of understand when you're in that survival mode, and you need to stop and switch and embrace the thrive. It's a bit of a cliche, but
no,
we are here to really experience as much as we possibly can, to fulfill ourselves as much as we possibly can. But if we don't stop, and if we don't appreciate, it's very, very challenging. It becomes just a helter-skelter kind of approach to life.
Well, a really good example, and I talk about the happiness. When happiness, we're sort of brought up by saying, if I work hard now, I'll be happy tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now you got two little thoughts there. One, will you get there? Two, is the happiness what you want? Actually, I heard this morning, lovely phrase from, who is it? Jim, the actor, very famous actor. He's
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey, well done. And he said, I would actually like everyone to be famous, make as much money as they wanted, to know that it's not enough. It's not how you make yourself happy. And I think that's our point. Make yourself happy now.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to do that, up and down, and it's that struggle. It's the anger I have in myself as well. I get really annoyed with myself. I get really annoyed with my thoughts. I'm like, come on. Yeah. And that's tough, when it's sort of in the afternoon for me. I think it tends to be not every afternoon, but in the afternoon when the day's gone. Morning, I love my mornings. Get into the day, have a coffee. You got so much to do, and then it's recognizing that and saying, "Come on."
Yeah. And Patrick, you do workshops on mental health and sharing your story and so on. And what would be the kind of, I don't want to sort of put people on the spot and go, "Oh, there's this one thing you should do," and so on.
Yeah.
For me, it's been moving away from the shoulds and the musts and coulds. And working out what works for me, what makes me happy. Because I think there's so much with personal growth and personal development, and everyone goes, well, I did this and you should do that. And if you do that, and if you get up really early and and it suddenly becomes, just like work, and then there's the judgment and the comparison and kicks in. So from your experience, because obviously your lifestyle has had to change, and you've probably adopted more personal habits, but what would you say are kind of the key things that have really made a difference to you? And then if people go, oh, I'll give that a go, then that's a good thing. I've tried lots of different things, working out what works and what works. But from your approach, how would you kind of go about to say, well, maybe you could consider something like this?
Well, I'd love to. The main thing, and this is why I'm talking with you. This is why you do what you do. And I've seen the other stuff you've done well on, Finn. It's brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the word there is sharing. Share.
Yeah.
Don't keep it here. Share your thoughts, share your worries, because if you let your mind interpret it, or use the wrong information sometimes, it's trying to protect you, which is good, but sharing it, sometimes if you just put it, but sharing doesn't have to be verbally, it could be writing down. Like at the end of the day, write down things that have gone well, and you realize this hasn't been as bad as maybe your mind is saying. I love the words you said: should, ought, must. Don't use those. Literally, if you start saying those words, stop. Recognize why you're saying it, because should is a very shallow word. You ought to do this. You must do this. Do you want to do that? No. And again, you're right, it turns into that work, or it turns into that, I don't really want to do it. Do it because it's your choice. I talk about the 6 C's of dopamine. And, one of them is choice, connection, and celebration, those ones in my workshops. Because should is definitely the opposite. Don't do that. And my last one is that understand, we're kind of visible, visionary in the way that we like, so, not just words. Our mind doesn't work on words. It works on images, on memories.
Yeah.
And there's something called a stress container. And you can imagine you've got a container here. When you get stressed, you put stress in, and it goes up and up and up during the day. Yeah. Something that might stress you in the evening won't stress you in the morning. Yeah. So what you've got to do is find a tap at the bottom. I'm a mental health first aid England instructor. For those you guys who know, they're the only company that train people to be mental health first aiders. So I'm an instructor. That's one of the things I do to my mental health work. But they talk about when you're helping others, trying to find out to get them to open the tap. Now I have to ask you, when you're stressed, what can open your tap? Then?
For me, it's just breathing, sitting and breathing into my heart, whether it's 2 minutes or a minute, and just reconnecting. And that has been so powerful. And just saying to myself, I forgive you. I forgive myself. Those 2 things have been transformational in my journey.
Brilliant. And those open your tap.
Yeah.
Let that stress come down, because otherwise, if you don't open your tap, the stress goes up, and you try and push it down, and then it explodes, and that is burnout.
I love that analogy. I think it's so clear in the way you've explained that, because I think we're all doing it, aren't we? We take on stuff, and and then it builds up, and that it's like the pressure cooker analogy, and then something goes, and then the collateral damage is huge, isn't it? We take it out on the wife, the kids, the cat, the dog, whatever, the work colleagues, and so on. And really, it's our responsibility. The big thing for me is the outcome is my responsibility. How I choose to respond, not to what's happening to me, but also what's happening within me. Yes. And that's still a journey, isn't it? It's a daily. The way I start thinking about it now is, every day is a daily kind of discovery. It's a daily adventure into the mind and the heart, and because this illusion that we've been taught of right and wrong and perfection is not the way forward. And you got to, if you forgive yourself the downs and enjoy the highs, and just see it as it's just a process.
Well, that's a really good observation as well. And I've just started a new wave of workshops for this year, in addition to my other stuff. But I talk about this Mental Health Awareness Week coming up. So, and the theme is loneliness. And again, you can be with lots of people, but you feel lonely. But my other one is more practical. It's about the power of music. And again, it's interesting. And the theme is about learning from your mistakes. Learning, it's okay to make a mistake. Come on, we've got to learn. That's how we learn. As long as you remember, try and make some effort to remember that. I get told off because I always get everyone's names wrong. The parents of my kids, my wife has a go at me. I try and learn it, but you know what I mean? Because as long as you make an effort to try and learn it, that's a kind of thing. But piano is the same. I play the piano. You make a mistake.
Yeah.
And then you repeat it, and then when you hit it, oh, most amazing feeling.
Yeah.
But it's like life as an analogy. When you avoid those mistakes, when you learn from them, and you share them.
And life is richer for the mistakes we make, isn't it? You know, because it opens doors, and it's, you know, and we have it with our children as well. And, you know, it's a mistake. The way you get better is you practice, you know, and if you don't practice, you'll keep making the same mistake. So just practice a little bit. And I think the other thing for me has just been, you know, it doesn't have to be these huge advances, these huge steps. It's, you know, every day is an opportunity to take lots of little steps in lots of different directions. And, you know, cumulatively, they build and they build and they build. And then suddenly one day you look back and go, my goodness, you know, come a long way. It's just, it's like you're going to go for a long hike, you know, get your backpack on. But, you know, it just starts with this. Yeah, it starts with the first step. Yeah. And
no, exactly right. You look back.
And the better you get at taking the little steps, you build momentum, and then you get better and better. You get stronger and stronger. Yeah, it's interesting. It's fascinating. So, oh, we've got the coffee machine just turning off again. So that's a noise in the background. It always happens. The joys of working from your kitchen. So Patrick, we haven't got a lot of time, but so you work one-to-one, you work group workshops. Do you work online? What do you offer people who are looking for a little bit of assistance, a bit of support?
Thanks. So what I do is I focus on people who want to understand about mental health for themselves. And I start from the beginning in terms of, I want to take away the stigma. And I want to help people avoid burnout. That analogy about the stress container, I want to help people understand that. When people are medically so ill, they need probably a counselor and a medical professional. That's not me. I work in companies, I go in and I inspire and I guide delegates to go, right, you know, this financial year is going to be tough. How are you going to manage it? Or in a local street, an organization. I am doing individuals one-to-one if someone wants to come and talk to me, just have a chat about life, and just someone external, but you know, who can understand in some ways, but you know, not too close some ways. So yes, those things. And I do it face to face, or I can do online, the power of Zoom, like we're doing now.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah.
And I've got a website where people can come and have a look and see some testimonials. Just get a feeling. Again, it's you know, we might call it a mistake, but get in touch. Just get in touch, have a chat, and then you might find, maybe not me, but you might understand that it's someone else you'd like to talk to.
It could just be the first step, as we said. Yeah, and you know, if you're watching, underneath this video, folks, I'm going to put all Patrick's links so you can get in contact with Patrick directly, see what he offers, reach out if you just want a conversation.
Always happy to talk. That's why I do this.
Yeah, Patrick, so grateful for your you know, your time and for sharing your story, and yeah, I think there's definitely more that people need to understand and need to do for themselves to live a life that's more peaceful, more filled with happiness. When I look back now in my life, you know, I thought I was happy, you know, stuff that, you know, you had to feel happy, but it was a complete, you know, yeah, it was a complete illusion that, you know, how life was supposed to be. You know, we get so busy trying to live the lives that we think we should, and we miss the key ingredient, which is getting to know ourselves and letting ourselves experience the joys and the downsides of life. But very grateful for your time.
Pleasure.
Look forward to
thank you, Finn.
Look forward to chatting to you again. And everyone, you know,
well done for tuning in.
Yeah, listen. If any of this resonates, even if you just, you know, want to have an initial conversation, because you've got to open the tap. And if you don't talk, you turn the taps off. I call it the valves. You've got to release the valves, let that negative stuff out. And it's so much easier when you do it with somebody by your side. And I think Patrick would be a fantastic person to connect with. So Patrick, thank you. Thanks everybody. We look forward to speaking to you again with some new inspirational human beings that want to share their gifts, their talents and their genius with you. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Patrick. Cheerio, everyone.
Well done, Finn.